Welcome to Potter Revisited, episode 106. I'm Tori.
And I'm Shay.
Today we are covering Chapter 8 of Order of the Phoenix, The Hearing.
Or, as we like to call it, I Set the Vibe.
So we are finally diving into this disciplinary hearing that's been hanging over Harry for the last few chapters. And he has just ended the previous chapter where he has been sent into this dungeon by himself. Mr. Weasley can't go in with him. He has no idea what's going to happen. He was very unprepared.
Ill-prepared indeed.
Yeah, and now we get to find out if he's going to, get expelled from Hogwarts or not.
Yeah, because, the legal system or whatever.
Yeah, the legal system in the magical world. It has some questionable holes.
Yeah. It's also kind of scary that Harry's really only ever seen this room once before. And in that instance, the verdict was life in Azkaban. So, yikers.
Yeah, so Harry's seeing this room and he remembers it from the memories he saw in Goblet of Fire, where all the trials were held for the Death Eaters. And so they're literally having Harry in this room. He wasn't supposed to be in this room. He was supposed to be in an office talking to one person. And now he's in this big courtroom with the chair with the chains on it, in front of 50 people, and he's literally a 15-year-old minor.
Seriously.
It's actually crazy. And then, of course, Harry's late because they changed the location and time of the hearing last minute, and they said that Harry should know because they sent him an owl. I'm just thinking, are they assuming he's coming from Surrey to London? They don't know how he's coming there. He's a minor, so it's not like he has, all the means of transportation available to him. They don't know where he was or if the owl would find him. It's just, a whole mess.
Crime.
Yeah, it's so shady, to be honest.
Best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, is they did send the letter with enough notice, but it got delivered to the Dursleys' house, which is where technically his legal address is. So he just wasn't there to get it, and they don't know the Dursleys are abusive schmucks, so they assumed if Harry wasn't there, they would, call him up on the Muggle phone and tell him he missed an important letter, But that's probably not what happened, but if we were, pretending to assume the Ministry had good intentions, that's sort of what we would assume.
It's very shady to change a meeting time, and make it earlier. I feel like pushing a meeting back.
The norm.
It happens, but you don't really reschedule a meeting to be earlier, because that causes a lot of issues. But Harry's in this chair looking up at the courtroom. We got Fudge there, obviously, and also Percy. And Harry notes that Percy doesn't even look at him. He's just being blanked by Percy.
Honestly, this is one of the times where Percy is just sort of unquestionably unlikable.
Yeah.
I know that he can't show a lot of response to Harry because A, he doesn't know Harry that well, and B, he's being part of the judiciary system and maybe one of the only ones taking it seriously, so he has to seem impartial. But he could have made eye contact and done a subtle nod, just so Harry knows that there's someone in there who even if he's a bit of a prick, won't let them just full on stab Harry to death or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Harry has no idea what the potential consequences are besides maybe his wand being snapped and being expelled, but maybe life in prison, maybe the death penalty, he doesn't know. And having someone he thinks is somewhat sane and familiar there could have been kind of reassuring. All Percy had to do was give him just a tiny bit of eye contact.
This is our first time seeing Percy since we've heard the fallout from his family. So you can really see him, he has his life now that he chose, and he's put his family and all that kind of in a box at the back of his mind, and he's not really going to think about that.
Yeah, he's compartmentalized.
Because I think deep down Percy kind of realizes that he's sacrificed his family for this, and it's his pride, and it comes back later where even when he was proven wrong, he can't admit he was wrong. Yeah, but Fudge is not looking at Harry nicely, just being big bully, and Percy's there taking notes, not looking at him.
Also, this is one of the only circumstances in anything where the words Fudge was there doesn't excite me and fill me with joy. Just this series. Any other time I'm Fudge?
That's true.
Love Fudge. Chocolate, delicious Fudge.
It's such a letdown.
Yes.
When Fudge is listing off the beginning of the hearing and kind of saying who's there, he calls himself an interrogator. So he calls Cornelius Fudge, Amelia Bones, and he notes Percy's the scribe, and he also notes Umbridge there as well. I'm thinking it feels so out of place for Fudge and Umbridge to be interrogators, because what are their backgrounds? What are their credentials? It feels so unnecessary. You're not going to have the prime minister interrogating you in a police matter for a crime.
Could you imagine? Mark Carney
Carney just there being like...
I feel like Mark Carney has the temperament. It would have been hilarious if Justin Trudeau tried to interrogate you. There's something about, like, Katy Perry's there for some reason. None of it makes sense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, it just feels so odd that you have, like, these, basically, Umbridge is just, like, an admin support, and you have, like, the literal prime minister, and, like, you're there to maybe be expelled from school.
For our US listeners, the prime minister is like the president, except elected fairly and not a dictatorial despot.
Also not a governor.
Yeah, what? I think part of it is that the author didn't want to, like, confuse younger listeners with having a whole bunch of, like, high-ranking, fancy adult jobs. Like, we don't really get to know a lot about wizarding jobs to begin with. So they're like, we know the Minister of Magic is top-ranking ministry guy. The idea that they would have to introduce the concept of, like, there are judges, which are other top-ranking ministry people. Like, I feel like it's just too many characters for maybe some of the younger listeners, and it would involve the author, I think, putting in more thought to the wizard legal system than I think she was willing to do. Because it could have been easy to just have another character, like Susan Bones could have just been the one who's like, she's the judge or whatever. She's the one who, like, performs the, like, ceremonial aspects and, like, sort of guides the process along like a judge would. Like, obviously the whole Wismagot get to vote, so they're the jury. But it does seem kind of weird that there's not, like, being a politician qualifies you to be the judge rather than, like, being someone who actually specializes in the law, is because politicians vote for, like, what makes them look good and not what the law says, clearly, as Fudge is doing here. It's just, like, it's a really bad legal system. It's really bad.
Yeah. I think in part, it's supposed to show how corrupt the ministry is, that, like, they're skipping steps and not doing things how it would normally be done. Like, Harry was supposed to have this meeting in the office with Amelia Bones and Dumbledore, I guess, and Fudge made it a whole thing. But I think also, kind of glossing over what you said about the legal system, that by this point, I think Harry Potter is pretty big international. So I think focusing too much on how the British legal system works might have been confusing for other people in different countries.
I mean, like, even in Canada, like, Canadian parliamentary, like, style of debate, for example, is different than British. So, like, but there's just some extent that in most, like, whatever, G20 countries, there's a certain understanding of what a, like, court case, what a, like, trial looks like. And this does feel a little silly, especially with the amount that, like, Fudge is just like, no, I want to get this done today.
Yeah. He has an agenda.
It's like, you can't just, like, okay, but what if there were a lot of witnesses?
Yeah.
Like, what if 20 people saw this happen and they all happened to be magic? You just didn't know because they were on vacation to Surrey to visit the garden show. And so you're like, oh, how convenient, you know? And, like, bring them in one by one and ask each of them individually what they saw. Like, he didn't account for any of the aspects of the legal system that need to be present for this to actually be a trial. It's insane. Especially given, like, anything you know about the real legal system is, like, if anything, it is horrendously delayed.
Yeah, it's bureaucracy.
Like, almost criminally delayed, like, based on what the law is of right to a speedy trial. Anyhow, the point is, garbage. I'm going on a rant. No one cares. The point is, this is not good legal system.
Justice is coming because Dumbledore makes his dramatic entrance. Was no one going to give Harry an advocate? Because Harry doesn't know what's going on. We talked last episode about how unprepared he was. So he just walked in there, like, going into, like...
They were going to bully a minor, sentence him to death in like, a 5-minute period of time, for sure.
Yeah. He just kind of accepted, like, oh, I guess I'm just going into this by myself. I have no idea what's going on. And it just seems super illegal that, like, they were just like, yeah, we're going to be questioning you by yourself with no legal guardian present.
Yeah. I really thought Fudge thought he was going to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and, like, get this done before anyone showed up. And he thought this was a huge power play for himself. He's like, everyone's going to side with me against Dumbledore because Dumbledore isn't there. And I'm going to look good. And we're going to put that Harry Potter in his place. And it just fucking backfired so horrendously. But he really thought he'd, like, orchestrated it in such a way as he'd have a really big public win.
Oh, yeah.
From a political and public relations standpoint. And it's just not that.
Yes.
So... this is actually one of the moments, and it's a lot for me to say, where I really, really like book Dumbledore.
Oh my god, alert the press.
And I movie Dumbledore, I guess, in this moment. I like him in this moment a lot. And it is one of the moments where they kind of change Dumbledore between the book and the movie, because in the book, he does, it's the same as that, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? It's like they very specifically say, Dumbledore speaks very quietly when he enters. He's like, witness for the defense, you know? And yet in the movie, he's like yelling. He's like, witness for the defense.
It's very Michael Gambit's version of Dumbledore that I feel like.
And I just think he seems so much scarier.
Yes.
And more intimidating and powerful when he's quiet. Because, like, when you're loud, you're trying to push your way in and, like, cover over the noise of everyone else. When you're quiet, you're making everyone get on your level. And it's just such a more powerful move. And I love that. I also love that when Dumbledore enters, there's, like, witches waving.
He has friends.
Which I think is low-key adorable. I mean, yeah, some of them are his friends. It's very unprofessional to be waving as, like, a member of the jury to, like, a member of the defense. But it's a little bit like, oh, he has friends there, but also, like, he's kind of famous. Like, this man has a chocolate brown card. They're probably like, oh, I'm in the fan club.
Yeah.
Hi, Dumbledore. You know, he's like George Clooney to some old witches, I guess.
He still holds sway.
The ones that got over Gilderoy Lockhart or are a few years too old for Gilderoy Lockhart are fangirling over Albus Dumbledore.
It's like your thing with Alan Rickman.
Whoa, that's different and justified.
That's different?
Different and justified.
Okay.
But I really do like Dumbledore here a lot. When he comes in and he conjures his own chair, he remains calm. He seems almost like passive in his tone. He's an expert, and Fudge just falls completely. Like, his visage of power and authority crumbles the moment Dumbledore walks in. And it's just like, it's glorious to see. Yeah,
I feel like Fudge he's like all like talk, and Dumbledore actually has like, you know, the experience to back it up. And Dumbledore knows Fudge that like he's a fuse. So he's all like, you know, just steam and fire, and Dumbledore's not going to engage with him. He's not going to yell at him. He's not going to intimidate him.
He's just the remaining embers in a fire, which burn more than the fire itself and are subtler. But
yeah, exactly.
I also just like, Fudge just, like, offers to have someone get Dumbledore a chair, which is very, like, welcome to my house. And Dumbledore's like, I'll get my own chair, which is very, like, oh, this is not your house. I am not the guest here, which is hilarious. But also, like, specifically, everyone's sitting on these, like, firm wooden benches. And Dumbledore conjures himself a comfy, very laid-back, cushy chair. And that is such a fucking power move.
Honestly, yes.
Dumbledore comes in, like, y'all being fancy and trying your best to be all judicial, scholarly, and authoritative? Actually, no. I set the vibe. The vibe is chill. You're all overdressed. Just gorgeous.
I love it.
He makes the whole energy change with his chair choice specifically. He doesn't need to pretend.
Honestly, if Dumbledore had sunglasses, he just should have put them on.
Start smoking a joint.
Yes.
It's just like, it's this blatant disregard and disrespect that Dumbledore shows. And it's just a masterclass in passive aggressiveness. He's polite. And yet he basically tells Fudge to go kick rocks.
As he should.
And it's so good. It's like, it's very quiet down for as a 10 is speaking. Or like, okay, kids, shut up. The adult is monologuing. Or like, okay, plebes, let me tell you how this is going to go. Like, that is the vibe. That is the energy. He sets that tone and everyone just backs the fuck up and accepts it. And Fudge is just there agape. Mouth agape. Shocked.
Dumbledore's there and Fudge takes a while to kind of being like, oh, you made it. I thought you would, not make it because we changed the time and location last minute. But Harry's obviously feeling a lot better because Dumbledore is there, so he's not by himself. And it's Dumbledore. And so when they start kind of going over the charges, Fudge makes a really big deal about Harry performing magic in front of a muggle, which obviously it does break the statute of secrecy and everything, but I don't really get the relevance of it because the muggle that it was done in front of was Dudley, who knows about magic. So it's not like a huge blow to secrecy because he already knows. Like, obviously I get why they're not supposed to do it, but they make such a big deal that, oh, you did it in front of Muggle, And I'm like, that muggle knows. It's Dudley. It's his cousin. He lives with him.
Yeah, and also because it wasn't combative magic. It's one thing even if Dudley knew it, but Harry had done something like Fred and George did, give him a pigtail or something. Like, that's hostile, aggressive, attacking magic. This is a defensive maneuver.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even if he Patronused at Dudley, they really only cause light and fend off Dementors. So, like, at most, Dudley would be like, that's awfully bright light. Fetch me my sunglasses.
Yeah, Harry's trying to save his cousin. And they were like, how could you do magic in front of a muggle? I'm like, oh, so I just let my cousin, die?
Harry should have been like, well, fuck. If I'd known I could have let him die, I totally would have chose that option. I hate that guy. Next time.
So Harry's trying to, interrupt Fudge because Fudge is questioning him and not really letting him answer. And he's trying to tell them that there was Dementors and that's why he did the magic. And eventually he just yells it. And my favorite thing is that Amelia Bones is just so shocked by like Harry being able to do a fully corporeal Patronus. She keeps bringing it up.
I just love her.
Yeah. It's just amazing. She's like, amazing. What? You can do what? How old are you? You're 15 and you can do one? It takes a shape?
It's so interesting. She's just like, hold on. I need details. Corporeal at 15. That's rad. And you carry on. Like, I think that actually would have done wonders for Harry if Dumbledore wasn't there in this situation, because just that little like pause, a little bit of a confidence boost, and other people are clearly impressed by hearing this about Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And like, you kind of want to root for a kid who seems like he's been through a lot and is really talented. Now you know he's not just a whiny brat, he's actually pretty good at magic because he can do this cool thing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I think it was really good for his case, kind of, for him, but also just like, I think she meant it earnestly as well, which is fun. Like, it's fun to remember that there are responsible adult wizards who also just think magic is rad, you know?
And people realizing how powerful Harry is.
Like, okay, he's not just a Nepo baby. He didn't just dead parents his way into a reputation. Oh, yeah, good old Cornelius Fudge is trying to convince us that there's no way Dementors wandering around London would stumble across a wizard. Even Ludo Bagman wouldn't bet on that, which is just so funny.
I feel it's in such poor taste for him to bring up Bagman.
Such a snarred, sideways remark to, like, throw up a joke about the known gambling addiction of a government official.
Yeah.
But in the middle of a trial, like...
That, like, you know, rips people off, and there's probably a criminal case about it because he ran off.
There's probably people in this courtroom right now who he's ripped off. But also, like, this is the kind of, like, snide remark you make after work when you go out for, like, post-work drinks with your coworkers that you like. You know, it's like a quiet, like, oh, I know that Harry Potter, he's a bit, you know, even Bagman wouldn't bet on that, you know, like that. You don't make that in a courtroom.
Yeah, it makes him feel like he's kind of complicit. If he, like, knew Bagman had a gambling problem, that feels like such a red flag.
It's so, but he is complicit. That's the point, right?
Corruption.
Everyone knows it happens, but because Bagman makes a good spokesperson for the ministry, so they let him get away with it.
But Dumbledore brings up the Charter of Rights here, and I'm just thinking, should Harry have been aware of his, you know, rights and freedoms that he's entitled to before the hearing? I feel like it would have been good for him to know that he's allowed to have witnesses, he's allowed to have an advocate, just because he knows Fudge was going to steamroll him.
Does he have the right to remain silent? Like, he doesn't know.
And he's 15.
He's a child. He's a literal child.
Yeah. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
Especially because we know, and Harry knows, Fudge has a personal vendetta against him. So I feel like Harry being known that, like, oh, you don't have to answer these questions. You're entitled to an advocate. You're entitled to, you know, all the things you're entitled to. Or it's illegal. But, you know, Harry doesn't know anything, and Dumbledore likes him that way.
Yep. Keep him dumb, keep him compliant.
Dumbledore brings in a witness that, and it's Mrs. Fig, obviously. It's so interesting seeing Mrs. Fig, who we always imagine in, like, you know, her carpet slippers, wandering around maybe in a muumuu.
A muumuu.
In the Ministry of Magic. It's just, like, an out of place for her to be. But I also think that it just shows, like, the lack of, like, I guess, I don't know, respect, dignity for Mrs. Fig, because the Ministry has no record of her living where she lives because she doesn't have magic. So she's just, like, irrelevant to them.
That's crazy, because she's still a citizen of the magical world.
Yeah. But that's why they don't really live in the magical world. There's no place for them, and it's just really disrespectful because, yeah, they don't care about her because she can't do magic, so she's irrelevant to them.
But it's just so weird to me because she's the child of at least one magical parent. Like, how do they know that the parents didn't kill their child because suddenly they lose all paper records of this young girl? Like,
not their problem.
You know what I mean? Because Arabella Fig was a child at some point. If they don't, they're like, oh, you can't get to Hogwarts, you don't know enough magic, disappear, maybe your parents killed you, maybe you joined the Muggle world, we don't know, we don't care, bye-bye. Like, that's horrendous.
Lack of respect. They don't care. If they don't have magic, it's like, that's not our problem.
It's brutal. Especially because there's jobs you can probably do without magic in the magical world. There's a lot of administrative stuff going on, you know?
Well, that's like, we talked about last episode, just like the lack of respect they have for Arthur's job and kind of like a Muggle relations adjacent thing, and they just don't really care about it. It's not prestigious. So I can see the same with Mrs. Fig being a squib. She can't do magic, so she's irrelevant to them. And it just kind of shows where the ministry is right now.
Douchebags is where they is.
Very disgusting. But we finally get our introduction to Umbridge, who is going to be a very big player in this book. And I feel like this is the book I feel everyone talks about where Umbridge is hated probably more than Voldemort. Like, she's just that evil. And I feel like it's just so relatable to have a figure like Umbridge, especially in a school setting. Like, you have teachers that just, feel like they take pleasure being, like, terrible to you.
I feel like Lord Voldemort is evil like a sword to the stomach.
Yeah.
But, like, Umbridge is evil like pins under your fingernails. You know what I mean? Like, it's grimy and it's subtler, but it hurts more, and it's, like, lingering. Like, it just... Some of the scenes with her makes, like, I have a visceral physical reaction to being like, oh God, oh.
Yes, I think we're going to have a lot of fun with her this book, but we decided...
Are we?
I mean, in a way, we're going to track all her terrible moments like I do for Snape, but this time Shay's going to be in it with me.
I get to participate. I have no defense of her actions.
Yeah, I do feel like Umbridge is such like an interesting character because Voldemort's evil because he's evil. And that's just, like, what he is. But Umbridge is, like, presented as, supposed to be a good person that's working with, like, the government. And she's a teacher. And she's supposed to be, like, on the right side. But she's still, like, evil.
A monster.
But I noted that she has this, like, fake girly voice when she interrupts Dumbledore. And I feel like she kind of uses that, like, her girliness to come off as, like, pleasant and, non-combative. But really, like, she kind of, like, it's manipulative.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just what she is.
I despise her.
Yeah, but she interrupts Dumbledore because Dumbledore kind of questions why the Dementors were there and, like, why isn't the Ministry going to investigate it? Because maybe Voldemort sent them, but Fudge doesn't believe in Voldemort. So there's like, well, did the Ministry sent them? Because they're in control, apparently. And we know later on that Umbridge is the one that sent them. So I think it's kind of glaring that that's when she kind of comes into the conversation. She's like, are you accusing the Ministry of sending Dementors to an innocent minor? We would never.
God, I hate her. I hate her so much.
I think that's why I find Order of the Phoenix so hard to read. I don't read it as much as the other ones because Umbridge is just so bloody awful during the whole book. And it's just like sometimes just a miserable experience because every bad thing happens and it's Umbridge's fault. And I just get so angry because I'm just like, why are you doing this?
It's because, like, Voldemort is so the big bad. Like, the big villain is always so far away from the regular people. Like, except for Harry, all the things Voldemort does impact everyone, but, like, he often isn't really, like, a character that's there until the end.
Yeah.
And, like, Umbridge lingers.
Yeah.
In a way that is, like, it's more human, it's more everyday. You see people like Umbridge in the world more than you see people like Voldemort. You see Voldemort's on the TV, you know what I mean? I mean, real life news TV, but you see them there. But you see an Umbridge, like, in your office. You see an Umbridge at your school. You know what I mean? Like, maybe a little bit less than that level, but it's so much more of a human, everyday evil.
But we'll get familiar with Umbridge very soon. But back to the hearing. Fudge is kind of, grasping at straws here because Dumbledore's kind of, changed the game a little bit for him. He's not really in charge anymore. So he starts bringing up other incidents involving Harry, like him blowing up his aunt and the hover charm that Dobby used in Chamber of Secrets that have no relevance to the hearing that Harry's currently at. And it kind of shows his hand that he just wants to get rid of Harry. He just wants Harry to be expelled. He just wants to be done with him.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, as a true crime girly, that's, like, part of, like, the proof you submit before the trial, like, previous criminal record. And the judge decides privately whether or not they think it relates directly to the likelihood of the suspect committing this crime, and decides whether or not the jury's even allowed to know about that. And a lot of the time, the answer is no. Like, the fact that this person has a history of doing this terrible thing doesn't directly mean they did this terrible thing this time, so the jury doesn't even get to know that. And the fact that, like, Fudge could just casually drop things Harry did as a child that A, have been proven to not have happened, or B, he literally forgave Harry for and said, no big deal, bud.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
You can't go like, oh, take back.
That's not justice.
Yeah, so when Dumbledore calls him out for that, Fudge says laws can be changed. So it kind of shows that he's just doing whatever he wants, and he's just going to do what he wants to meet his goals, and it just shows the corruption in the Ministry.
Terrifyingly poignant in the current state of the world, actually.
Yeah, it's very relevant for today.
I feel like when I was younger and I read this, I was like, if the Prime Minister of Canada said, oh, you're gonna do this thing, I don't like that thing, I'm just gonna make a law making it illegal, everyone, even people who like him, would be like, that's dumb, you can't do that. Like, even little me was like, this is kind of like a fantasy thing. Little me thought this wasn't, like, that's too blatant and it's too obvious. And, like, if that happens, it happens in closed doors, behind the scenes, and they wait a few months till after the trial so that it doesn't look like it was directly because he wished he could have punished Harry Potter, you know? But nowadays, it's real life, and it's just as blatant as it is in the book, which is, like it felt like fantasy then, and it's reality now.
We picked quite the time in the world to reread this book. But yeah, Fudge obviously is just drunk on power, and he's just like, Harry's an obstacle for him, and he wants to eliminate that obstacle. So he's just like, he made this meeting just to get rid of Harry, even though it goes against the Charter of Rights and just any kind of, judicial system. And Dumbledore just kind of calling him off on that. But eventually they take it to a vote, and Harry is saved.
He's deemed innocent in a court of law, and Dumbledore stands up and says, "Case closed. Bring in the dancing lobsters." Do you remember bringing in the dancing lobsters?
No.
Oh my god, you never... Okay, there was a TV show on Nickelodeon back in the day with Amanda Bynes called The Amanda Show, and she did this reoccurring bit.
We didn't have Nickelodeon when I was a kid. I never got to watch it.
Oh, well, she did this reoccurring bit where she was a judge, like a Judge Judy spoof. And whenever the case was closed, she'd bang her gavel and say, "Bring in the dancing lobsters." And then these dancing lobsters would come in.
I didn't get to watch The Amanda Show because we didn't have Nickelodeon when I was growing up. So I was Disney only.
Well, you did miss out on the dancing lobsters. They were classic. And I've been doing this dancing lobster dance for the past 5 minutes, waiting for you to be entertained by a joke you will not understand. We're leaving it in. Some people listening will know what I'm talking about, and they'll appreciate the dancing lobsters reference. Do not edit it out.
But yeah, Dumbledore's like, "Okay, cool, bye," and he just doesn't even look at Harry, doesn't say anything to him, just pieces out, leaves, and Harry's just like, "What the hell just happened?" Just so cold.
So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Madame Bones, because we talked about her a bit earlier and how we love her, like, jumping into fangirl about cool Patronuses.
What a icon.
But, like, we actually get to know kind of a lot about her in this chapter. Because when Dumbledore's talking about saying, "Well, I'm sure the Ministry will," she's the one he makes eye contact with. And they specifically mention that when he's saying, "I'm confident an investigation will happen." And so it says a lot about her. One, he thinks she's less corrupt than some of the other people in the room. Two, she has enough power at the Ministry to do an investigation, maybe even if the Minister himself isn't thrilled by the idea of one. It says she's smart, she's well-informed, she's non-biased, she's hardworking. And honestly, she's probably the one who should have the Minister's job. But she doesn't because A, she's too busy working to do political pandering, and B, she's not a man.
Honestly.
I said it.
Yeah.
I said it. I went there.
True.
But, like, honestly, she seems kind of rad. Like, her interruption, how she seems smart, how she seems like someone even Dumbledore thinks can do a good job, despite the Minister putting pressure on her to not do a good job. I kind of feel like not letting Harry have that chill one-on-one with her that this was all supposed to be may have actually deprived him of another potential mother figure. Because Molly's pretty lonely over there being a Harry Potter mother figure. I mean, sometimes Minerva, sometimes Minnie G's there, but it's mostly just Molly. And Harry has, like, a small collection of father figures, that he keeps on the shelf and takes them out as needed. And I feel like Molly and Madame Bones could, like, get aboard the mothership together,
Yeah, it's definitely cool seeing, like, Amelia Bones and just how, like, badass she kind of is. And I feel like we get a little bit more tidbits about her through just, like, the general Hogwarts population. I feel like there's a conversation that Harry has with Susan in, like, Half-Blood Prince about her. But yeah, definitely a really cool person.
I feel like the little bit we get about her actually shows her as a qualified, high-ranking government official. And, like, it's interesting because I know later on, like, at the end of Book 7, when all's happy and well, and Kingsley Shacklebolt is Minister of Magic, and, like, I honestly think that's because he's one of the few government officials they mentioned being on the good guy's side. And so they threw him into that position, so it was someone we know. And it's because he got put in the movies. Because I think if we actually look back on all the book references of Kingsley Shacklebolt before they made the movies, and we looked at all the, like, government officials we know here, she seems like she could have easily have been a smart, sort of, like, deep cut but remembered person to say, and now this person who is a high-ranking government official, so it makes sense, is the Minister of Magic, and qualified for all that.
Well, she died, right?
When did she die?
In Half-Blood Prince.
Fuck, I forgot she died. When did she die in Half-Blood Prince?
She gets murdered by, like, Voldemort or at Death Eaters or something.
Oh, I'm sad. I forgot. Take all this away. I'm in mourning. I loved her. I loved her.
This happens when you reread the books, and then you're just like, wait, they died?
That's why she can't be Harry's mother figure. He can't lose another mother figure.
Yeah, because she dies.
Fuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew.
I mean, I'm sure I knew, but I forgot.
At least you found out now before we read Half-Blood Prince.
I go through a lot in Half-Blood Prince because it is my favorite. But, like,
yeah.
Damn. That's sad.
Yeah, my just takeaways from this chapter are that Fudge is just such a... I don't even know the words to feel how much hatred I feel for what he's doing and the corruption.
Smarmy.
And that I'm somewhat looking forward to Umbridge, but also not looking forward to it. Just because I feel like it's just so terrible. And all the little things that she does just to make Harry's life terrible at school. I feel like I relate to like all the worst teachers I ever had. And maybe it's a trigger for me.
She's the human equivalent of nails on the chalkboard. Like...
Yeah, but I'm happy that Harry's going back to school.
Case closed. He's innocent.
Yeah, so he doesn't have that to worry about now. Just, later stuff. But I'm excited to get back to headquarters and see what shenanigans the kids are going to get into.
Yep.
So thank you for listening to this episode of Potter Revisited. And we'll be back next to cover Chapter 9 of Order of the Phoenix, The Woes of Mrs. Weasley. Because those kids are driving her crazy.
Aw, poor Mrs. Weasley. Yeah, the woes of Miss Weasley are the kids.
Yeah. But if you like this episode, please make sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can reach out to us on social media at Potter Revisited, or you can email us at potterrevisitedpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time.
Bye!